I'm excited about today. We're going to be kicking a few things around, and just sort of be open to this. I'm the breakthrough guy. I'm the transformation guy. So I'm going to come at it as many different ways. I'm going to keep teaching until the Lord tells me to teach something else. So right now, this is top of the mind. But a couple of announcements before I get started. April 26th. Mark your calendars. Set the date. April 26th. Rooted in Identity. It's a one-day event. James's vision to really create a practical engagement of this thing about identity. We love Pastor Ben because he gets into what I call an activation. An activation is an anchor. We hear the word, we get good motivation and direction, but then the next step is sort of how do we anchor it? And so I've got an activation for you today. So that's a big, it's a huge piece of really anchoring this learning. But experiential learning takes it a whole different level. It's one thing if I were to tell you, how to drive a car. It's a completely different thing if you get in the car and drive it. And that's what we're going to do with identity. Really connecting with how do we practice? How do we get good at really connecting with this? And we're going a lot deeper than I'm a child of God, because you all are a child of God. But you have a very unique expression of being a child of God. Right? So that's a big part of it. So, and then I have the honor of actually producing my event in June 6th and 7th called Manifest Your Destiny. Not Manifest Destiny, Manifest Your Destiny. Because we're going to be looking at not only first part, let's say look at, I talk about we are all FedEx delivery people. You are alive right now in this moment because you've got something to deliver. And so the first is knowing what that is and what you got. That's identity, the sense of identity. And then the sense of purpose is who's it for and how do I get it to them, right? Specifically, where is this package going to? And we're going, I'm here to help people. I'm here to share love. Well, we all are. We want to get really specific, really dialed in. And we're going to be talking, and when I started this message, it was more of this whole breakthrough thing, but the Lord just showed we're going to sort of tie it into identity. But I want you to, like I said, save those dates and know that our guarantee is that you're going to walk away knowing who you are, what you got, who gets it, and how do you get it out to them. The how you get it out. Are you driving a bike? Or are you delivering in a van? Flying? It's just like we want to really dial this thing in. So keep that in mind. Again, April 26th, one-day event, and then June 6th and 7th, we're going to do Friday night and all day Saturday. Okay? How's that sound? All right. So today, transform beyond your trial. Transform beyond your trial. So what I want you to think about is what would it look like if you grew beyond your need for God to change your situation? What would it look like if your personal development, your transformation took you to a whole new place where the need, the stress, the struggle, the crisis is no longer an issue? So you don't have to call upon the Lord. You don't need a miracle. You don't have to stand and wait for the Lord to show up because you've outgrown it. That's going over like a ton of bricks. I see that. So let's look at this idea. Well, originally the title was going to be, the outer struggle is a reflection of your inner strife. But I thought that was a little negative. But it sort of gets this, opens up this conversation of, hey, everything going on out here is a reflection of what's going on in here. One of my favorite verses, Proverbs 27:19, says, water reflects your face like your life reflects your heart. Water reflects your face like your life. You want to know what you believe. You want to know what you think about yourself. You want to know your dominant conscious thought at a deeper level, because the Bible talks about this sense of inner being, right? Paul said, I got this war raging in my inner being, these hidden places, my inner self. It always talks, when it references that, it's talking about a level of consciousness that you are not aware of. Your consciousness in this moment, you hear what I'm saying, you know what you're thinking about it and feeling, but there's a whole deeper level of consciousness that's running the ship. And that's what this verse is talking about. Unless we get connected with that, this ain't going to change. no matter how much information I get up here. And so if that's the case, we got sort of the first choice we make when we talk about growth transformation is to say, I talk about victim and victor. Victim says, this thing is happening independent of me. It's happening to me. There's a situation or circumstance that's going on, and I get to react to it. There's no connection between me and it. That's a victim mentality. And I teach this to myself every day because I go victim constantly. That's the soul likes to do that. But the victor mentality says, this couldn't be happening unless at some level of my consciousness I was thinking about it. As water reflects the face, so does your life reflect the heart. All issues of life flow through what? Your heart, your inner being, this deeper level of consciousness that we want to get connected to. So that's the first choice, and you get to choose. Victim has a lot of benefits because it's not your fault. You're just responding. You have absolutely no control of this person, place, or thing situation. They take some pressure off. But you can't change nothing either, right? Price and benefit. Over here, Victor says, I own this. It's not guilt. It's not your fault. It's not that energy at all. You're just acknowledging God's universal principle of cause and effect, of belief creates reality. And it's deep and we're not going there. I'm just saying these are the two things. So, but if you choose to go here, say, okay, I get this victor thing. I own it. I didn't choose that consciously, because if that was the case, we'd all be choosing different things. But it's here, and I accept it. I have to acknowledge it. So this is an expression of something that's going on in here. Let me find out what that is. And so if we go there, now we have another two choices. The first choice says, I can move horizontally through this thing, right? My buddy Les Brown, every time I hear him speak, he says, if you're going through hell, don't stop, keep moving. And so this idea of a linear movement through the thing, right, to get past, to get through, to get to the other side. But it also implies a sense of how I do that is coping mechanisms and competency skills. I'm getting just really good at dealing with the pain and this stuff and the garbage, right? So it doesn't affect me as much, but it's still there. It's still here. What we're going to be talking about today is another option, and this is this idea of growing through, right? Now, instead of going through, we grow out of. We move in a vertical dimension out of the thing, right? Two different ways. What does the Bible tell us about this? So 2 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 18, it says, and we all with unveiled faces, with what? Seeing as in a mirror the glory of the Lord, looking in a mirror, are progressively being transformed into his image from one degree of glory to even more glory, which comes from the Spirit of the Lord. Have you heard of that? Okay, so when you look at the Hebrew word, glory, it actually means to think. So when we go from glory to glory, what it's referring to is actually we're thinking better and better. About who? About us. So this is sort of a Dr. Matt breakdown to sort of look at it. So translating, as we remove the veil, the lie, the pain, the stronghold, the limiting beliefs, all the gunk that the soul is holding us prisoner to, we begin to see our true self. It begins to reflect as in a mirror who we really are. If I were to say, what color are your eyes? Would you know that answer? If I said, what's your hair color? Right now, if you ask me, I said black, but it's got some dye in it, so it's gray, black. Anyways, you know who you are, yes? You can identify aspects about yourself. But when I ask, who are you? What's your true identity? Now it comes up. If you don't have the same level of confidence to express your identity, who you are, why you're here, your gifts, strengths, talents, abilities, and specifically what they are and the purpose for them, you've got some covering. You've got a veil. There's some blockage for your connection with that. We should have the exact same confidence to express those things as we do our visual appearance. Are you following? And the only reason you don't is because there's this veil. And it's not a veil of I'm trying to limit you or sabotage you. It's a veil of protection. And so we're going to get into that because this part of you that's creating this resistance is in your soul. It's not in your spirit. We got a three-part being, body, soul, spirit. It's the soul that exists for one purpose and one purpose only. That's for your protection, safety, and survival. And the way it accomplishes that is keeping you the same, keeping you thinking the same stuff about you, believing the same stuff about you, keep acting and behaving all the same way. It doesn't care that it's not working for you. It just cares that it's similar, familiar, and it's used to it. So if we broke this thing down, the first thing is remove this is how I'm throwing transformation. This is personal growth. This first thing, we remove the blinders. And as we do that, we see more clearly who we are. That begins to show up. And the third part, we start thinking differently. And so it's not even thinking differently. The Bible's saying not only will you start thinking differently about yourself, more importantly, you're going to start thinking more accurately about yourself. This thought of I'm a loser, this thought of I'm not good enough, this thought that what if I fail? What if I get rejected? Blah, 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 blah. That goes away because you see more clearly who you are. And it's that thought that becomes more dominant. Not only that, do we have more an accurate self-perception and self-affirmation. It says we start thinking more like the Holy Spirit, which is really cool, right? Because as you know, we're all good Christians. We have the mind of Christ, yes? Yeah, where is that? In your spirit, soul, or body? It's in your spirit. How do we know that? Because the mind of Christ wouldn't be stressed, frustrated, depressed, anxious, or any of that garbage. That's in your soul. Not only is that in your soul, that's its job. Its purpose is to make you feel that way. So what? So you know it needs some help. Just like your body gives you pain when there's some imbalance, distortion, or disease, right? Thank you, pain. It's not comfortable. I wouldn't choose it, but it's there to let me know I got to do something. The same thing with all these negative thoughts, feelings, and emotions. They're not you. It's part of your soul, and its purpose is to bring to your attention. It needs some cleaning up. You got to remove that part. Are you following? So the Bible gives us a clear sort of definition of that. I'm going to get a little sciencey on you for a second. Can I do that? 3 people said yes. Well, if it stirs up your soul, that's okay. So here's the thing. It's in quantum physics, there's a theory called the parallel universe theory. I told you I'm going to get a little sciencey on it. So let's look at this. So what it says is there's multiple wave functions that exist all at the same time. So reality exists either in a wave function or a particle function. A particle function, when it's a particle, it's real, it's tangible, there's a desk, there's seats, there's a building, and all this stuff. The wave theory exists, but it just hasn't collapsed into a particle. And so what this means is, let's say right now we're here. We're all sitting in Vida's brand new building, having church, talking about wave functions, all this stuff, right? Oh, but there's another reality playing out right now in a different dimension, in a different parallel. And there, we're all sitting on a chartered cruise ship, traveling the Mediterranean, having church, going to different ports, and spreading the word of God. How does that feel? That's happening right now. And there's others. Oh, there's also another one that we're all sitting in a van down by the river. You got that one. If you didn't get that one, Matt Foley, Saturday Night Live, you check it out. Van down by the river, sitting on egg carts, and just having church there. I had that same action too. So what I'm saying, we've got multiple planes, everything's hanging out at the same time. And so the choice, we just said, the choice is we go through life at this plane, this dimension, getting better, learning more, growing. Oh, but there's still the hurt, the trauma, the heart wounds, the pain, the childhood crisis. These things here that have formed thoughts, memories, feelings, and belief, it's still there. It's still on this plane. It's still impact. Sometimes we get, like I said, really good at suppressing it, getting really good at dampening it down so we can function, so we can get through it. But it'll keep showing up because it's there. What I suggest is that we transform into the next level. This is what glory to glory is talking about. We're leaving this plane, we're leaving this dimension into this next level. And in that level, the pain doesn't exist. In that level, there is no trauma. In that level, it never happened. I didn't say the memory doesn't go away. I had a client, I worked with thousands of people with this process, and you may connect with this as well as I describe it. What you actually went through, this is what's happening. This guy had some very horrific, traumatic things happen as a child. And it stayed with him to the point where he became a hypnotherapist. So he became a hypnotherapist because he understood the brain, nervous system, everything I'm talking about, that his subconscious, that his deeper levels of being really attach some nasty stuff. But that becomes your operating system. You can't outbehave that. The research says the strongest psychological human drive is to behave, is to think and feel according to what's going on in that subconscious mind. And he knew that, and he knew, well, hypnotherapy, he wasn't a Christian. He says, hypnotherapy, I led him to the Lord, but the first thing, hypnotherapy says, this is a way to override, this is a way to hack that belief system so it doesn't keep affecting me, right? But again, it's a modality. It just sort of works and tries to change stuff. He has his experience, he had his breakthrough. I took him through this process, and we were able to begin to find the truth. That's the truth sets you free from that experience. And a few months later, I checked in with him, and I'm like, dude, so how you doing? What's going on? And whole different perception, whole different attitude. And I'm like, okay, so are those thoughts coming up? And he's like, what thoughts? And I'm like, well, you had this. He's like, no, man, that's not even there. Like, okay, so what about that? Some of those experiences that you had. I mean, some nasty stuff. He's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, you reference a few pretty deep things. And had no clue. Couldn't remember them. Why? Because they happened at a different level of reality. He was now experiencing this. And it's not that he forgot it, right? But the associations that were made here were not so good. Now, as he looked back, this memory actually was a sense of empowerment. He saw it, not that it doesn't happen. We're not saying that. We're saying you grew, you transformed. Now, seeing it differently, seeing it through the eyes of true identity and empowerment changed everything. So this exists. This is the reality. So that's what I want you to connect with, this sense of growing up, growing above, versus just sort of growing through. But here's what we're up against. So like I said, the brain and body, the nervous system, has one thing and one thing only on its mind, and that's protection. Yes. So I was literally explaining this to Ben, Pastor Ben, back in the green room, and I was going on about how the safety, survival, protection, and talking about how we can learn the word and get new ideas, but hits this resistance, and he's like, you know what? That's just like organ donation. When you get a transplanted organ, what's the first thing the body does? Rejects, right? So we're talking about protection through rejection. We got this brand new kidney. Totally will bring life to the body. Stop all the disease and help the body heal and function better. Cool thing? But what does the body do? It perceives in all its intelligence that this thing is a foreign invader and must be attacked and shut down. Your nervous system does the exact same thing with a positive word, with the word of God, with a new affirmation, with a new opportunity. If it's not in alignment, if it's not congruent, if it contradicts what your soul, what your brain and nervous system have already decided, this is how you're supposed to think, this is how you're supposed to feel, this is how you're supposed to act. Are you following? Protection by rejection, and it's not that your nervous system is trying to sabotage or limit you. What did I say? It's a safety mechanism. It's trying to keep you safe by keeping you the same. And in this next level, we're discussing how that whole threat is removed. It's a big difference of understanding what threatened your nervous system to the point it had to form of this thought and this feeling. That's the other thing. All these negative thoughts, feelings, emotion, all this addiction, all this stuff, it thinks it's trying to protect you. And protection means there's something, it's got to be at risk. When you find what's at risk, and this is what we're working on in our identity event, right? Because people, I worked with a client the other day, I was like, I have fear of failure. I'm like, but then she's like, maybe it's fear of success. And I said, does your amygdala know what success or failure is? And she's like, I get that a lot too. I said, your amygdala is a part of your brain that allows you to experience fear. Does it know what success or failure is? And she's like, well, no. I said, well, then that has nothing to do with your fear. Fear means there's potential pain. That's all it means. Thank you, fear. What's so important about me, about my identity, about my gifts, strengths, and talents that I need to be afraid? That's the question we have to ask. Or we get real good at dealing with our fear, right? We take herbs and meditate and we do all kinds of things to suppress the fear, but we don't get any closer to our treasure chest. We don't get any closer to our true identity, right? That's what we're after. So protection by rejection. Here's the thing, Jeremiah 17:9. The heart is deceitful above all things, and it is extremely sick. Who can understand it fully and know its secret motives? Right? So when we look at the heart is the word lab in Greek, and it is your surface conscious mind. So when I'm on TU this Thursday, so if I'm speaking to you, something's coming up for you, whether you're resonating or it's triggering you, either way, I'm going to say, come to TU, because I'm going to get into the actual techniques that we're working on. And so we have the front part of the brain dealing with attachments. We have the middle part, emotions and memories. And then we have the back part that deals with beliefs. But we're dealing with this part. This verse says, this part of your brain is sick. This part that always thinks all the time and has all these thoughts, it's deceitful. What does deceitful mean? It's the word akobi, which means fooled. Your brain has been fooled. Your brain has been fooled to have thoughts like, I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I don't deserve it. Your brain has been fooled into thinking that you're someone different than who you are. How do you know? You have these thoughts and feelings and emotions and beliefs. But it's been fooled, and so once it's fooled into thinking and receiving and perceiving something that's inaccurate about you, its job is to make you think that too. So it begins to interfere and affect your spirit, which is power, love, and sound mind. It's good. Your spirit's good, but your soul tries to influence it. Right? So we want to stop the foolishness. Verse 10 says, God searches the heart, same word, surface conscious mind, and examines the mind. So again, it's not redundant. The Bible says God knows your heart, what you're thinking, and your mind, what you're believing, and he's coming in with the truth. He's coming in and he says he gets to the root of all things. That's in verse 10. So what do we begin to do? What do we look at with respect to, again, I'm going to get in more detail, but just to tee this up, the frontal lobe deals with attachments. So we attach to thoughts that are not accurate. We have the memories. And these memories, it's a package deal because the memories are always associated with emotions. So that's the other thing you know and sort of connect with when an experience shows up that triggers strong emotion. Same thing I just said. Does your hypothalamus know what just happened? There's a good chance that it doesn't, but the emotion you're experiencing is real. The emotion is real. But what's actually happening is this thing that you're going through, this person, place, or thing that triggered that emotion, looks a lot like what happened in the past. It looks a lot like that old issue, that old trauma. So your nervous system, out of safety, says, how do we respond? How do we react? The only thing I can connect to is what happened in the past, even though it was not so good. I'm going to take that thing, take that memory, and bring it right here to the present. And so now you get to think and feel and act just like you did when you were 3 or 4. Now the problem is that, again, this is a brand new thing. It's never happened before. But your soul doesn't care. Your soul just causes, again, safety mechanism. I got to respond to act the only way I know how. And so there's specific ways we create detachment, removal from those memories and pain, so we're not dealing with that anymore. And then the final part is when we deal with beliefs, and this is also a big component of our identity event, because the only thing your belief system thinks about is you. Meaning, you only have one belief. You only have one belief, and that belief is trying to protect this sense of identity. You don't have beliefs about money and purpose and relationships, all these things that a lot of people get into. No, you only have one belief. And so that's the key. When we start exposing that level of your brain, that level of nervous system, that's the biggest way to wash that face off and see what's going on. So we got projection through rejection. The next step is what I call, and this is what we're going to be talking about to you, elevation through separation. Elevation through separation. And what's the verse that we connect with on that one? Anything come to mind? Hebrews chapter 4, verse 12. The word of God is alive and active. It is sharper than the sharpest two-edged sword. It cuts deep enough to separate. To do what? Separate soul from spirit. Separate truth from lie. Separate pain from pleasure. Separate trauma versus healing. It exposes bones, joints, and marrows. It exposes the innermost thoughts and desires. So that's the power of the word. And so this process becomes, if we were to say, okay, how do we sum this up? It's a detachment. It's a separation from the part of you that's been hurt and needs protecting. That's all the soul is doing. It's trying to protect something. And if you separate yourself from that, just like we talked about the kidney. You are not your kidney. Your kidney needs some help. It's malfunctioning. Here we go. We're trying to help it out, give you a new one, or do whatever. You're doing the same thing with your soul. As you separate from you, this part that is so hurt, so stressed, so worried, so traumatized, then you can heal it. Are you following? So let's do this. We're going to do a little activation. So go with me on this one. Do we have our keyboard player, if they would come up? Close your eyes for me and take a deep breath in. This activation is to sort of connect with what we've just been talking about. And as you get into that sort of relaxed, open state, just think of, do we have an organ player? Just think of this situation. I want you to picture yourself in a hallway. Picture yourself in a hallway and allow yourself to think of this current issue, this current challenge, this current struggle that you may be going through or dealing with. Allow yourself to feel the emotions and thoughts that are coming up, not being them, but allowing them, observing them. And as you look down the hallway to the one side, you see that this feeling, this emotion, what's coming up for you is not new. It's not familiar. You've been here before. And as you look even further down that same hallway, you see where it began. It's attached to a memory. What happened? Who was involved? You're connecting the dots. You're seeing that this current experience, this current issue, challenge, struggle is nothing more than another reflection. And as you look to the other end of the hallway, you see yourself growing, getting through, getting better at dealing with it. It's dampened, it doesn't affect as much. But you also know there's so much more. And now you turn and you see the elevator doors opening. And as you look into the elevator, guess who's standing there waiting for you? You see Jesus and the Holy Spirit. And as they wave you to come inside, step inside the elevator, they say, before you come in, let the baggage go. Leave your luggage behind. Because where you're going, you can't take that with you. And as you enter into the elevator, hear them begin to speak to you, revealing your truth, revealing what was behind some of the hurt, some of the pain. What part of you was the part that was hurt? What part of you was trying to be protected? It's not you. You don't need protection. You are spirit, love. It was your soul. Begin to separate and see the distinction of a part of you needing help, a part of you crying out, and you have help right now. And as they speak to you, that separation is more evident. As it's being washed away, you see more clearly who you are. Let them speak to you. What are you hearing about gifts and strengths? Your true identity. And they have you push the button of the upper floors. And as the elevator begins to rise, you feel that sense of burden, that sense of that weight being lifted. Because you're leaving the lie behind. You're leaving that pain behind. You're leaving the veil in your past. The door opens and you walk out. And you already feel a sense of peace and sense of calm. As you look down the hallway, you realize that those experiences are there, but you see them in a different light. New revelation, new ideas. You see how your strengths and gifts were there all along, you just didn't connect with them. Instead of using them, you actually protected them. Now you have full access in this dimension, in this plane. Again, feel that confidence. Feel the difference of knowing that and hearing that. And now as you look into the opposite end of the hallway, you see the opportunities. All the people, all the places, all the income streams, all the relationships, all the improved health, everything that you were dealing with on the previous floor is no longer there. It's a whole new reality. What do you see? Where's the Lord taking you? Knowing that at this level, you have what it takes to make the money. You have what it takes to be in that loving, connecting, nurturing, fulfilling a relationship. That part of you was at a lower level. You were disconnected. That's why the relationship wasn't there. That's why the money wasn't there. But at this level, it flows freely, effortlessly. Because now it's matching your higher state of being, your true self. What do you see? What are you feeling? Proverbs 26:22 says, a wise person can attack a strong city and pull down the strongholds which they've been entrusted with. This moment you're pulling down those strongholds. They've served a purpose. They kept you safe. They kept you protected. But that part no longer needs protection because your gifts and strengths and true identity keeps it safe. Take a deep breath in and let it go.